Okay, so today's topic is the 3 p.m. energy drop and how to fix it, how to go about it, looking at it from an Ayurvedic standpoint, because there is an explanation for it, and we will hear from Dr. Leena Sripada about it. So I don't know about many of you here, but I tend to feel this energy drop. I'm doing so good with my morning routine and eating a good breakfast, lunch, whatever I need to do. Still, after lunch in around comes 3 p.m. and I start to feel this energy drop. I feel this crash in my energy where I'm looking out for snacks or food or something to fill that up, or coffee or caffeine, or I'm looking for some sort of like a way to get some extra nap or rest. But that energy drop, that really kind of hinders with the schedule of the day because we still need so much to be done. So I've heard that from a lot of women that we have in our circle as well, that that is something that we all experience in different ways, and according to our bodies. So that is a topic that we're going to be talking about: why it happens, what are some of the things that cause it, and maybe differently for different people, and then what are some of the things that we can do to support ourselves to have sustained energy through the day. So I'm so excited to have a beautiful conversation with our resident expert, Dr. Leena Sripada. She is a naturopathic doctor and Ayurvedic practitioner. She has her own practice and she has served so many women right through from their early years to their pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, and perimenopausal and menopausal years. She has supported so many women in her beautiful, caring way, and she has done an incredible amount of work. She is a faculty at the Center for Ayurveda and Indian Systems of Healing, KESH, and she also is someone who really advocates for healthy, balanced living through the wisdom of the holistic system of Ayurveda that exists. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Leena Sripada. Dr. Leena, over to you.
Thank you, Surbhi, for the introduction. It's so wonderful to see you all people here today, this afternoon, this morning into the afternoon. When we look at Ayurveda, Ayurveda is a system that came out from sages and people who had that wisdom, who are just paying attention to life, like the whole life energy, the cosmos, the macrocosm and the microcosm. So it's so amazing that this knowledge has been passed down to us in so many ways. And, we're going to, have a little bit of a glimpse in some of the Ayurvedic perspective, but also in the perspective that is more relevant to modern day. Because I think a lot of us, we're very excited about learning a lot, but with so much information, it also becomes overwhelming. And then we kind of give up and say, okay, I still don't know what I need to do for myself. So a lot of what we want to bring here with the sessions that we're doing is bringing some of that traditional wisdom in a way that's really practical and easy to do, but also in a way that you can connect to it as well. Because we know we should exercise, we know we should do all these things, and many of us are doing them, but we don't always understand the reason why. And sometimes we don't actually connect with the whole reason behind it. We know we should, we know it's good for us. But as soon as we start to connect, we start to observe our own rhythms and patterns. Now some certain things start to happen intuitively. So even when it comes to energy, I know even for myself, a lot of my day and routine now revolves around those energy patterns that I'm aware of, so that I'm not going against the grain of what I need to do at that time. Now, modern day, we can't always control everything, but it really helps understanding when your productive time is and when is your more restful time, and not pushing against that. And like Surbhi said, right, that 3 p.m. dip, it's not only exactly at 3 p.m., it can happen 2:30 or 3 or 3 o'clock, but I think all of us can connect, myself included. This is one of those times that I'm very susceptible to that dip in energy. And because I understand a little bit more what's happening, now I can plan my routine a little bit around that. And instead of trying to push through and taking the caffeine and the sugar to push through, now it's about reducing that dip in the first place. And that starts right from the morning, to knowing how to manage that and to do the right activities where I can still be productive, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So instead of, I have to push and push and push and push, Maybe being productive is actually lying down for 15 minutes. Or maybe it's just putting on some gentle music at that time. And you'll see if you acknowledge that, suddenly there is more energy that you didn't even know you had. So I think this is the question, why do so many people feel
Yes.
that crash in the afternoon? And I know, Surbhi, you've shared also, right, how that feels. And I know many people have felt that.
So let's go back to why do we feel that energy crash? And even if we're following a good routine, like a lot of us feel during that time specifically, but for some women, it might be different times of the day that they feel that up and down. So let's go back
Yeah,
to the
let's go
basics
through
and
the
what is
physiology of it, a little bit of the science behind it in easy to understand terms. So we all know we have a biological clock, but like a circadian rhythm, right? Are the times that we're hungry, the times that we're sleepy, the times that we're awake are all aligned with our daily routines. And those daily routines line up to the seasons as well, and the sun and the lunar, the pattern of when the sun wakes up. Like we are very connected to that, and we may not realize it. So when we look at our energy and waking up in the morning, typically we have a hormone called cortisol, right? You've probably heard of cortisol, and then there's adrenaline, right? So these are our two major hormones that kind of help us feel alert and wake up and manage our day-to-day survival as well. So they're not bad. They just have a certain role to play. Now, our cortisol naturally should spike up in the morning. This is that hormone that helps us feel awake. It gives us energy and it makes us feel ready to face the day. And when this cortisol spikes up in the morning, there's a natural surge where it goes up. And this is where you'll feel that like, now I feel awake. I've had my breakfast. I feel good. I'm ready to start the day. And you feel like you can get through the whole day. So now this spike happens, right? And then after lunch in the afternoon, there's a natural dip of cortisol. So this is when your blood pressure also drops. This is when your blood sugar also drops and your energy drops in alignment with that as well. So this is a natural cycle of the day. Now, if we look in modern day, everything has become a little bit more accentuated. So that cortisol spike in the morning now, because we're stressed, I have to get up, I have to get going, I have to rush to work, and then we grab the coffee, which also spikes the cortisol further. Now our cortisol is like spiking up very quickly. And what happens? The laws of nature, it is going to crash very quickly at that afternoon time. So now instead of this sort of fluctuation, we've got a super high and then we've got a super low with laws of nature, the opposites. So that's when we feel that crash even more. And for some people, it can be the point of like exhausted. Like I have to lie down. And there are people who like, I've had patients like they need to sleep for 2 hours in the afternoon, right? And that's not normal on a regular basis. And especially if it's like a 20 or 30 or 40-year-old, right? So that's what's happening with the up of the cortisol and the down of the cortisol. And cortisol regulates so many other things. It also regulates our mood as well. So when the cortisol is up, we're going to feel energized and we're going to feel motivated and we're going to feel good. But when that cortisol comes down, we start to have those feelings of, I'm not worthy, I'm not productive, everything is not going as great in life in a small way. Now these cycles happen day in, day out, day in, day out. And our cortisol rhythms, if we're under a lot of stress or doing a lot of things out of balance, now becomes what we call dysregulated, meaning it's out of balance. It's not going up when it needs to go up, it's not coming down when it needs to come down, and it goes off the charts. Okay, so that's a little bit of the physiology of what's happening. So some of the things you might experience when that cortisol drops is your blood pressure drops. A lot of people don't know this. I feel the same for myself, is when your blood pressure drops, you feel kind of weak. You feel tired, but it's not a tired like you've gone to the gym and you feel good tired. You just feel sort of weak. For some people, you could feel actually dizzy when you stand up, right? So a lot of people don't actually recognize that low blood pressure and that weakness is related to that afternoon drop. And then eventually by the evening, by 6 or 7 o'clock, you eat your dinner or you do some activities, then you start to feel normal again. And then you want to get back into your activities, right? So we'll come to the evening after. But this is essentially what's happening, and the blood sugar is also dropping as well. So have you recognized that a lot of people crave something sweet in the afternoon? Like how many of us have had that, right? And that sweet could be, if you're balanced, it might be just like a fruit, which is fine, right? Gives you a bit of energy. But for a lot of people, it's like the intense craving that even willpower cannot manage, that they want a cookie, they want a donut, they want something really sugary. Because that's the body's way of asking, I need energy and I need it desperately now. And so, of course, sugar is going to give you that boost of energy, but it is an artificial source of energy, right? And then that's the time people crave their coffee or their caffeine because they need a boost. So I want to bring in a little bit of the Ayurvedic lens. And I don't know, Surbhi, if there's anything that you want to touch on that topic right now.
Yeah, we'll keep it conversational and we'll keep it alive, and we'll make sure that we have our wonderful Purna founding members here, and then we also have the people who are going to be listening to it after, and then they might have their own things that are stirring up for what they feel in their body. So I'll try to be reasoning and voicing it and bringing it from that perspective, and we'll keep it conversational. So thank you for answering it from the perspective of what is happening in the body, and especially in the female body, right? Like we function in those
A little bit more
cycles and
cyclical in that sense. Yeah,
cyclical, and like our cycles and time of the month, and then time of the season and all of that. So it's beautiful to understand it from a scientific point of view in terms of what's happening in our body on a hormonal level. And at the same time, I would love to hear, what is Ayurveda? How does that science of life explain it from what is it that your body's experiencing? And then we'll go into what to do about it.
for sure. So, Ayurveda has a perspective of understanding the qualities and the forces in nature, right? So you've all heard of the three doshas. We're not going to go into an introductory course on that. But this is a lens through which Ayurveda helps us understand what we should do in terms of our food, our exercise, but also our daily routines and daily habits. So if you can see my little chart here, like it's not that visible, but we will share something with you afterwards. You've heard of the Ayurvedic clock? I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's an Ayurvedic clock. Now, this is again just following the laws of nature. This is not somebody invented, right? This is just the laws of nature, where each dosha has a dominant part of the day that it governs. So what that means, three doshas, right? Divided amongst 24 hours, right? And it repeats 2 times. So in a day and in a night, there's going to be one dosha time period that is dominant. So what that means is when that dosha is dominant, what is happening in our system is governed by those qualities. Okay, so I'll give an example for it to make a little bit more sense. So if you can see here in the chart, you've got 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. There's a light blue, which is the kapha time. I'll see if I can just point it right on the video here, right? So that's the kapha time. So kapha dosha in the morning, this is the time what we might feel a little heavy, sluggish, or we might have mucus and congestion, right? Or we might feel a little dull if we've overslept, or we have not slept well. So in the kapha time of the morning, there's a natural quality of heaviness. So to counteract this time, it's really important that we drink warm food, drink warm herbal tea or warm water, and it's important we do movement. It's important we see the sunlight. If there's no sunlight, it's important that we light a lamp or a candle. And we invigorate our whole system, our body, but our 5 senses to wake up at this time of the day to maintain a good balance. Okay, so that's the kapha time. There's a lot more detail we can go, but in a nutshell. Now we move into the pitta time of the day. So that starts around 10 o'clock and goes all the way till 2 o'clock. Pitta time is dominated by the fire, predominantly the fire element. So think, this is when the sun is at its peak of the day, right? This is when our digestion is strongest. This is when our focus and productivity is strongest. And this is often when our energy is also pretty good. We're motivated, we're driven, we can keep going. And ideally, we have our lunch at that time, somewhere in that time, which gives us energy, and we are on a roll. Okay. So this is always the best time to plan for productive activities. Okay. So that's around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now, what happens from the 2 p.m. down to the 6 p.m., right? So this is the Vata time of the afternoon. So this 3 p.m. energy dip is happening at the Vata time of the afternoon. So let's say someone who is predominantly a Vata body type, right? Their nervous system is a little more sensitive. They're likely going to feel that afternoon crash more than somebody of a different body type. Okay, we all will feel it, but a Vata type will feel it the most. So in this afternoon time, the Vata dosha is dominant. And Vata governs a lot of things like movement in the body, nervous system. It also can relate to feelings of feeling scattered, anxious, right, when we're out of balance. But when we're in balance, this is a perfect time for subtler things. Subtler things means creativity, meditation, journaling, quiet activities, which are ideal at this time to balance the dosha. If we're running in the mall and doing a million things, this throws off the Vata dosha, which means we will experience that crash even further. And I know in our modern day society that 2 to 5 is a productive time, right? You still have, especially if you're working in an office or whatever, you still have meetings, you still have to get things done, you still have to do a million things. And when this happens day in, day out over years and years and years, this starts to take a toll on the body. And often we don't notice it until 10 or 20 years of this imbalance. So these things don't happen overnight. And that's what Ayurveda is all about, supporting in a gentle way so that we're preventing these issues. Instead of suddenly you're diagnosed with burnout, I have a lot of women where it's come as a shock that they could not get out of bed because they were burnt out and diagnosed as burnout because they're like, I was fine until then. But that's 20, maybe 10 or 20 years in the making of pushing through the afternoon, right? So I don't know, is that making sense when we have those 3 times of the day? And this repeats again in the evening into the night. And we don't have to get to that now. I want to just focus on that afternoon as the Vata time of the afternoon. So I don't know, Surbhi, can you relate to that afternoon time, that Vata imbalance or that nervous system stimulation or that exhaustion or fatigue? What does that feel like for you?
Um, I absolutely hear you, and I have my own ways that I try to manage it. And I think I was doing really well for a bit, and then I'm starting to feel the seasonal change, and especially the Khichdi cleanse that we were doing. I could feel that craving really come in during
Right.
that late afternoon. So let's talk about, I think you touched upon the amount of load that we carry, and each one of the women that I know, we have our own things that we're dealing with, whether it's our work, whether it's our family, whether it is our business or managing children and parenting. It's the different roles. So I love to understand it, the fact that the physiological part and then Ayurveda, the explanation, because it really helps us tweak it and apply it with a better understanding on ourselves. But what would you say for there are two things that are coming to my mind. One is that the adrenal fatigue that all of us, like we talk about in terms of that there's so many decisions that we're making, there's so much thought process, the energy that's being consumed in making decisions. What does it have, like in terms modern world, how do we deal with that? Because we still have to handle all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So, is it also the one of the factors, like the explanation that we understood, but one of the factors to do with the amount of stress that we all have in the back of our mind, the mental load that we carry in our modern lives? Like, how does that play into that energy drop?
Yeah, for sure. So, you've probably heard of, adrenal fatigue. This is a common word. It's not actually a medical diagnosis, but, adrenal insufficiency, something along those lines, right? This is where the adrenals have been pumping out adrenaline and cortisol to manage their day-to-day for years. And then it gets to a point where it's like, I cannot do this anymore, right? And that's when we feel the constant drop of energy. It's not just a one-day thing. It's like happening all the time, and then you're struggling with it. So like you were saying, that a lot of women, I'm going to just talk, about women, whether you're working, whether you're managing a home, there's a lot of responsibilities that women have, right? That they're either aware of, like spoken responsibilities or unspoken responsibilities. They feel like they have to take care of, whoever it is, right? So that's a different kind of stress. It's not your overt stress, like I was late for work, I missed a meeting. That's like a really acute kind of stress. But the stress that a lot of women are going through in a day to day are the unspoken things of, did I get the groceries? What am I going to cook for dinner? And then, my kid is not, was upset today. And then did I do something, that guilt will come in. And so there's a lot of emotional processing that women are doing that is adding to the stress. Sometimes it's not what you can see on the outside. So that's the kind of stress that can start to really take a toll because often women are not going to be just talking about it. It's not like a big thing that happened. It's just running in the background all the time. And it's even running when they're sleeping, right? It's even running when they're trying to rest, right? You try to sit for meditation, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to do my routine, but these are the things that are still eating up and the burning the adrenals out. So when that happens, now your battery, which maybe it was at 50 or 40 or 30%, now it's like dropped to 1%. And that difference, between a battery, cell phone battery between 1% and zero is huge. You may not think I was fine, I was functioning. Now it's like you're out, right? I have a patient like this. She's just in her 20s and she's at that 1% battery. She's so burnt out that she will go to 0%. She sleeps for 24 hours and then she's okay. And then she's up and she's doing everything okay again, right? So we don't want us to get to that 1% battery. Like it's important that we maintain our reserves also in a certain place that life will have stresses, right? There's always going to be things. We need those reserves and resilience to be able to go through that versus I'm just functioning. It looks the same on the outside. That's why it's really, really hard to even know where you're at. I don't know if that's making sense, Surbhi, but I think we can all relate to this. And sometimes we don't know, am I on the verge of burnout or I just had an exhausting day? You sleep, you're fine the next day. Sometimes it's hard to know where you're actually at.
That explains it beautifully, Dr. Leena. And I think just the fact that you're mentioning it, there's so many women in their own lives. We are carrying so much, and sometimes we're so used to doing it all and still feeling that there's not enough that we're doing. So it's really important to acknowledge and just know that what is the requirement of our life and how much we have capacity for. Once we see and we're aware, we can see things more clearly, the whole picture, the whole kind of 360 scenario, then we can do things that we can take care of ourselves to sustain ourselves and then increase our capacity. So I love that phrase that have your reserve. Like we don't let our battery go from green to orange to red. We know what's going to happen next. It's going to shut down. So we do want to make sure that we're doing little things to keep ourselves to keep ourselves charged. So let's talk about some of the things that can be done in busy lifestyles that we all have. What are some of the things that we can do to feed into that our energy plug?
For sure. And just to touch up on the last point, I think none of us would let our phone get to 0%, right? So why would we do it for ourselves? It's something we need to remind ourselves because we, as women especially, we will keep going and keep pushing. And then we feel like we can still do it. But would you do that to your phone to let it get to 0%? No, right? So we got to take care of ourselves. So what are the things that can bring us recharging in our day-to-day so that we don't get to that point, right? So A lot of it starts with a good rest and a good morning routine. Instead of trying to fight through that afternoon time, which is what a lot of people do, now they're feeling the drop. Okay, now I need to eat something. Now I need to do something. It's more of a reaction in the moment. So when we step out of that, we want to work on prevention. It starts with a good rest and a good morning routine. And I know for myself, I can tell the mornings if I wake up a little bit more frazzled and I'm rushed and I'm not able to do my yoga, my nervous system is already on a much higher, loop, and I will feel that afternoon crash. Versus if I've taken care of my morning and I've eased into the day, doesn't matter what's happening outside, but in my own system, if I eased into the day, now there's more resilience that I don't have that drop as much in the afternoon. So a lot of it starts with how we wake up. Are we jumping out of the bed and grabbing our phone and then seeing the message like, oh, I forgot to do this yesterday, right? Is that how we're starting our day? Our stress hormones just spike first thing in the morning. If they spike, they're going to crash, right? So a lot of things that I kind of try to bring in my own life and share with others is how are we waking up, right? Don't check your phone first thing in the morning. If you need, if you are somebody who needs that as an alarm, like get a different alarm if you're going to start getting into checking all your messages, right? Don't check your phone first thing in the morning. Just wake up. And I try to look outside, whether it's sunny, whether it's rainy. I try to look outside and just tune in. What's happening in nature? What's the weather like? Are there any birds? If it's dead of winter, just appreciating that stillness. Because connecting to nature is that first bit of recharging your battery. And then what I try to do after I freshen up and brush my teeth, I will see, even in the winter, can I go out to the balcony or just open a window or a door for a few minutes? Even if it's cold outside, just get that fresh air. That's prana, right? That's life energy. And it also tunes your body to what's happening in the outside. Instead of checking the weather on the phone, you can check and feel how is that weather outside. So connecting to nature as a first thing in the morning is something I find really, really helpful in our modern day because we often don't have that. We have to make it happen. And then the second thing is some sort of warm nourishment, whether that's a cup of warm water, a ginger tea, or any of your kind of warm herbal teas, ideally not caffeinated first thing on an empty stomach. Something that is warm, hydrating, and nourishing. If you're on herbal teas, or if you're on, sometimes we do Ayurvedic herbs, or just a simple ginger tea or a CCF tea, something that aligns with your body type and something that's warm and nourishing. And not just gulping it as we're doing things, just taking a few minutes to feel that warmth go into our body. That's already giving us sort of soothing, nurturing, it's allowing our systems to feel at ease as we wake up. Okay, so that's the second thing that I find really, really helpful. And then the third thing that I find really helpful is doing some sort of meditation, yoga, prayer, whatever that is for you. It's about something that makes you feel connected to yourself, to your spirit, whatever it is that makes you feel at ease and naturally grateful for life. It's not about doing the yoga, about doing the exercise, doing the meditation. It's about becoming in a meditative state, which then allows, if you're really in tune, your battery could charge up quickly without even doing anything, just by connecting to that source of life energy. So after that, really those things really can take 10 minutes maximum, right? It doesn't take a lot of time, it's just presence. So when we start our morning off in a more balanced way, then of course the next thing is having some breakfast, but a nourishing breakfast that's aligned to the season, that's aligned to your dosha type. Not a cold smoothie that we're just, blitzing up really quickly and rushing out the door. Something that's home cooked, fresh, warm, ideally. So having something that's actually nourishing, not a, Tim Hortons bagel on the go. Those kind of things are not going to nourish us in the way as, nice home cooked oatmeal or whatever it is that you like for breakfast. Okay. So if we skip that breakfast and have the coffee instead, what's going to happen? We know your adrenals are going to plummet because your caffeine is giving you an artificial sense of energy. And this is really the difference where I see those people who like the super moms, so I'm fine, like I'm doing great, like I'm okay, because they're running on the caffeine, they're running on artificial energy, and that can only last you so long. When you crash, you're going to crash hard. So we want to bring in that resilience of natural energy. And I want you to pay attention to this also, even after, in this weekend. When are you running on real natural energy? When are you running on adrenaline energy? Does that connect with you? Are you able to kind of understand where that artificial energy or that stimulant energy is and where's that natural energy? We'll come to it afterwards, but I just want you to reflect on that.
That's a perfect segue into the next question, which is we go for the sugar. That's what I find, that reaching for that sugar craving that is going to give a quick boost. It's usually in the afternoons or it's after dinner, I also find.
Mhm.
So, what's the explanation for that? And then what do we do
Yeah, for
to
sure.
replace
No,
that?
I think so. That's a really good point, right? The sugar craving is real and it's almost like socially accepted. You know what I mean? Like, we know it's not good for us, but it's so accessible and it also is a very quick fix. So let's look at it from the body's need at that time. When energy goes down, what gives us energy? Sugar is the most quickly absorbed energy in the body. Yes, we need proteins and other things as well, but that doesn't give us instant energy. Sugar, and especially refined sugar, gives us instant energy. So your body's asking for something because it needs energy. So the obvious thing it's asking for is something sweet, and usually that's going to be something sugary. The more burnt out, the more out of balance you are, the more you're going to crave the bad sugar. Okay. So body's seeking quick energy. And in Ayurveda, we understand sweet. The taste of sweet is something that is also comforting, right? Baby's milk, the first milk that baby gets is sweet. A lot of the first foods that we're having is sweet, right? We're so conditioned now that sweet is bad, but sweet in balance is nourishing, it's strengthening, and it's comforting. So a lot of times in that afternoon, when we're actually kind of going down, we're seeking something to make us feel better, to make us feel comfort. When we're feeling stressed, what do we, most people tend to go for the sweet. It's a way of sort of mimicking that love and nourishment, right? So those are some of the reasons why the body's asking for something, and that's how it's coming out as a craving. So instead of looking at cravings as something bad and judging it, right? Look at more as your body's trying to give you some information. It's trying to tell you something. If you tune into that, now you can kind of understand maybe what my body's telling me is this. So if I address that, now I'm not going to need that intense sugar anymore. And I think a really important thing is, when you're working on your health, completely avoiding the sugar, stopping cold turkey doesn't really work. Some people can do it, but it's struggle, right? It's more important that now you have things that are naturally and healthy sweet, that when you're still burnt out and tired, your body needs something, but let's work towards having something natural that will give you a bit of that energy while you work on your imbalances. And that could be something like some juicy fruits. Summertime, when it's hot and you're tired in the afternoon, something that is juicy and sweet. It could be berries, it could be juicy plums or peaches or grapes. That's going to give you that natural sugar, that hydration, and that natural boost of energy as well. And if it's winter time and we're not into the fruits, it could be a warm herbal tea or a warm kind of milk, dairy or non-dairy, right? With a little bit of ghee in it, a little bit of honey, a little bit of ginger or turmeric, like a golden milk. And you'll see if you do something warm with a little bit of ghee and a little bit of natural sweet, it's the perfect pick me up in the afternoon. And you just sit there and you sip it quietly. It's not just about the drink, it's the ritual around it where you just sip it quietly, be present, and allow your nervous system to sort of relax. And this can be such a nice way to address the sugar craving, but giving your body and your mind a break for what it actually needs.
Yeah, this is beautiful. I think those are Another one that I do sometimes is I use dates as my pick me up. That works really well too. I do walnut and date, and that's like a little mini dessert sometimes for me. Um, but our bodies are different. So what we notice is like different body types and different constitutions, like we talk about, react differently to this energy crash. Some of us might get irritated, or some of us might want to be alone, or whatever it is, right? Like might get into our own bubble. So what do you have to say in terms of like how different energy types and different bodies, how the guidelines that Ayurveda provides, how to identify what are those, and then what are their response to it, and how to manage it? That would be great.
Definitely. So, Ayurveda primarily looks through the lens of the doshas. Of course, there's much more to it, but in a simplified way, if we understand our own dosha type, automatically there's sort of a whole door that opens up into understanding so much about our own system. So when it comes to energy, each body type, as you know, responds differently. They respond differently to stress. They respond differently. Some people can really push through their day and they're okay. And there's the other people that they really need to pace themselves out, right? Or need to schedule that afternoon time for some quiet time. So when we look at the three doshas, usually there's one or maybe two doshas that are dominant in our own nature. This is our natural genetic tendency, and it's determined by our genetics, but also where we were born and many other factors as well. So in a simplified way, often we can figure this out through a dosha quiz. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives us an idea, or the 5 elements, the Purna 5 elements quiz. The three doshas and 5 elements really work together. So when we understand our type, right, there's different ways to go through that. Now we can understand a little bit more about how our energy system works. So the Vata body types are the ones that are prone to feeling a lot of enthusiasm and getting very excitable, but also having a crash. Vata is the wind energy, so it's fluctuations. A lot of excitement. I want to do everything. I suddenly have a burst of energy and I'm going to plan everything and I'm going to go traveling. I'm going to do ABC, and then they crash. Now I'm overwhelmed. I overcommitted. I cannot do anything. I'm burnt out. So there's a lot of ups and downs with Vatas. So when we understand if we're this type, we need to pace ourselves out a little bit, not to overcommit, not to go that extra bit with excitement, but to keep ourselves a little grounded, a little bit paced out. Having a daily routine is really critical for this type. Also, not having too much crashes of energy and pumping up with stimulants and caffeine and excitement. You want to pace out even your food, your routine, and your daily habits as well, so you don't get that crash. Okay, so Vata types are especially prone to this afternoon dip, right? And I myself, I have Vata in my constitution. I can tell I can be totally fine, and then within a few minutes, I can feel that dip. It can come very quickly. So when Vata is part of your nature, you will feel more cravings for sugar, you're not hungry and then suddenly you're very hungry. You're more sensitive to the environment around you, more sensitive to stress. So Vata types, their adrenals tend to be a little bit more overactive, and then you'll have more of those energy crashes. So they sometimes need herbs that are rejuvenating for them. They need some good yoga and, ways to keep their body and mind a little bit more at ease. And you'll see when that's taken care of in a Vata individual, if you're really healthy and in balance, you won't have that afternoon crash. You might feel like a little bit of quiet or different activity, but you won't have the crash, right? And I know from my experience as well, like there's been definitely times in my life where that afternoon crash has been, hard, especially, with small kids, waking up through the night, not getting good rest. That afternoon crash was really big. And there's also been other times in my life where I'm aware of that afternoon time, but I don't crash because I'm pacing myself out. And it's happened naturally. I'm not forcing it. So that's the Vata type, which is really prone to this afternoon dip. Now, it doesn't mean that the other types are not prone to it. Pitta types that are more of a fiery type, these are the type A personalities or the overachievers or just the doers. These are the people that love to get stuff done, to feel productive, and they have a tendency to push. So these are the people that will fight that afternoon dip. They will have the caffeine. They will plan more meetings. They will plan their exercise. They will plan to do more to fight that natural dip. So they're working against their nature because their nature is to push and to fight and go through that intensity because I'm going to do it and I'm going to get through it. Right? And we can all recognize that, right? So when they push through, definitely there's going to be a crash sometime. It's going to hit you sometime later, whether it's that afternoon or you're going to go into burnout. Right? So this pushing is an important aspect to also pay attention. Am I fighting against it and am I pushing it? Or do I need to acknowledge that I am tired? And that's really hard for many people to do. Or they feel like I am tired, but I cannot let other people down, right? Other people, I have to prove that I'm doing okay. And this is really common in women, especially young women, managing career and young kids and family and aging parents and responsibilities, and they push through. And this can also lead to a lot of issues later, perimenopause, early menopause, hormonal imbalances, and other things later in life. So when we're the Pitta type, we need to acknowledge that it's okay to feel tired. You're not a failure. You just need to allow your body to get some rest. And then the third type, the Kapha type. So these are the types that are usually more resilient in nature. They have a stronger body build. They're usually a little bit more calm and steady. But when they get tired or burnt out, they tend to feel more sluggish. They feel like dull. They feel unmotivated. So this is where it may not show in their physical body that they're tired, but they don't have that excitement to do things. They feel just sort of like they'd rather just sit on the couch and watch TV and check out, emotionally check out from everything. So the Kapha types manifest a little bit differently. They don't have that obvious crash, but they will express their fatigue in different ways. They might also crave sweets as well. So, like this, Ayurveda understands how everybody's unique. And with these unique natures, when you understand that, you also can take more charge of how do I manage my energy throughout the day, not through pushing, not through stimulating, but allowing myself to feel balanced and resilient. So I naturally have bountiful energy.
Would there be anything that you would suggest? I think you did suggest for each one, what would be some of like for air personality types, it's more grounding practices through the day,
Right,
and then
right.
nourishing yourself for fire types, it's acknowledging and it's okay to get rest. And for the earth is when they do feel that sluggishness to um, allow yourself to rest, but not get too
But yeah.
comfortable. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, you can look at it lifestyle, right? Little techniques you do throughout the day. It could be movement or exercise. It can be habits in terms of your behaviors, right? Do you push through? Do you overcommit? Do you plan resting time? And then it can also be through the diet, right? So that's a big thing of what we're eating can also regulate our energy as well. And there's a lot to go through this, but in a very, very brief way, right? Vata types will do better with a grounding breakfast. They should not skip the breakfast, right? There's a time I used to do that because I was trying to do all my yoga in the morning and fast, right? And that just did not work with my body type. So Vata types do need to have a heartier breakfast. Often they need healthy fats and they need some good protein in that breakfast. So they need that grounding, a little bit of a heavier breakfast to keep them sort of stabilized throughout the day. Vata types tend to be snackers. They tend to snack on carbs, and that's not good for their energy as well. So they need warm food and more nourishing, like root vegetables, really, really good for Vata. They need ghee in their oatmeal, right? People don't think about putting oil into their cereals. That sounds weird, right? But when we put ghee into our oats or coconut oil into our pancakes, a good amount of healthy fat is also grounding for the Vata type. So that all starts to help with stabilizing your energy, right? And then for Pitta types, right? So they need food that is a little naturally calming and cooling. So they do need to have that breakfast, but they might do well with things like coconut. Nothing too stimulating and spicy and intense. They need like a lot of green veggies. They need cooling spices like cumin and cardamom. and they need a lot of good hydration, right? When you have a lot of fire in your body, you can become overheated. So things like cucumber water or even herbal tea, but more like cumin or mint tea. This is all really good to pace out the pitta type. And kapha types, they might be okay with having a light breakfast or like a moonbeam broth or some sort of broth or like more of a herbal tea in the morning because they need some lightness in their system, right? Something that's light and warm, right? And they need to space out their meals because they might want a snack and they crave sweets and they like creamy things and they like that heavy cheesecake kind of food, right? Or foods that are just more naturally heavy. So they need to keep their system light so that they don't get kind of pulled down in that afternoon sluggishness. They need food that is fresh and home prepared and not overeating. So that's how you can look at it, even from an energy perspective, based on the dosha types. And really, when this really makes sense for you, you're not having to follow a structure or even a diet plan to that extent. You will start to know, and your body will start to tell you, and you will start to know. You don't have to be an Ayurvedic expert or anything. You will start to know, your own body will tell. And that's the beauty of it, right? It's just a framework for you to understand your own system.
That is beautiful. And I think before we close off, you mentioned a little bit about the circadian rhythm or the day cycle.
Yes.
If we can touch upon that, just go through it in terms of supporting ourselves so that there are things that we can do through the day. We talked about the morning, things we can do through the day and even the nighttime. So, just easy things that are quick that will help us keep sustained energy and not just for day to day, but that longevity of through our cycles that we talked about.
For sure. So I'm going to share here. This is, and I know we also have a nice one that Purna has put together, but this is what I was just able to pull up as an Ayurvedic clock here. So essentially that daily rhythm, right? Aligning ourselves with the nature, like the circadian rhythms and our own rhythms, when they line up, our energy will happen very beautifully. So I'm just going to walk you through this. There are so many things you can do, but I want you just to connect to one thing you can do in the morning and maybe one thing in the evening and just stick with that. So morning time, I'm not going to break it down into doshas as much, but or Surbhi, do you want me to go by dosha by dosha?
I think we can keep it tridoshic for
Yeah,
generally
I
for
think so.
everybody that are good.
For sure. Yeah, let's keep it sort of. So essentially, waking up with the sunrise is a very natural thing to do, right? Essentially, sun is waking up, we wake up with the sunrise. There's a certain natural upsurge of energy in the system. The body wants to cleanse, so that's when you should go to the bathroom, freshen yourself up, maybe have a shower. This is the awakening time. And this should happen in a nice, gentle way, not a buzzing alarm, jumping out of the bed, panicked about I'm late. That's not the way we want to wake up, right? We want to look outside, look at nature, and kind of feel awake with the sunlight, if there's sunlight. Then we want to have something that is a little bit warm. After we've brushed and freshened up, have something warm in the system. And that could be a herbal tea or something very easy to digest, ginger tea or something like that. And then that's the morning time when we want to wake up and then we want to move. We want to do gentle movement, whether that is exercise, yoga, a walk outside. I mean, for some people, this is going to be their gym time, whatever works for you, but gentle movement in tune with your body, in tune with the seasons. This is a natural progression of things. Now, if you're doing high activity and you need to sweat, you do your shower after. Okay, so essentially, you're getting movement in the day. Then you have your breakfast. And for most people, breakfast is rushed. We don't think through it. We're grabbing something because we're in a hurry. But as you know, breakfast is a very important part of your morning. And if you have food that is aligned with your own system, your body type, and the season, you will feel good after that meal and it will sustain you. So having that important breakfast is a really critical time. Now, after the breakfast, typically is your productive time of the day. So we spoke about the pitta time of the day. So this is your productivity time. This is the time when you do your work, you plan your activities, you do your thinking, like anything that involves a lot of brain work. This is a great time to do that. And that really takes you up to the lunch hour. Lunch hour should be your largest meal of the day. If you look at a lot of countries around the world, lunch is still the largest meal of the day, and there's an afternoon siesta. In those hot climates, it's nourishment, family time, and rest. That was naturally part of the cycle. But in modern day, it's grab your sandwich, get back to work, and keep going, going. Have your coffee, keep going, going. So it's very out of alignment with nature's natural cycles and your own natural cycles. So you want to plan your, productive time and have your largest meal of the day. And then you might continue to do some of the activities, bit of productive time. But a certain point comes after you've digested and you get to around that 3 p.m. time, you might start to feel the dip. You might start to feel a little bit tired. So if we're in working situations, right, which many of us are, and we cannot just go and lie down, right? You do want to aim for either taking a short break. Can you take a 15-minute break just to go outside, just to drink something and go for a little walk, some quiet time, right? Or can we do activities that are a little bit more sort of down tempo, not pushing, not doing a lot of active brain work, a lot of outward activities. It should be a little bit more inward activity. If you have the the luxury of having some flexibility in your schedule, this is the perfect time to lie down for 15 minutes, like not an hour, but like 15, 30 minutes, and just lie down or listen to a little bit of a music or just pick up a book and read something that is quiet and relaxing at that time. This is a perfect time to do that. Then you will find it's a good time to have, you'll be a little bit craving something. This is a perfect time to have your hydrating natural sweet. It could be a fruit, juicy fruit. It could be a herbal tea. It could be a golden milk, right? Something that's a little bit nourishing will give your body the energy that it's asking for. And then after that, you will start to notice your energy picking up. And then that's typically a time where you might want to do some, organizing, household cleaning, just taking care of a few things in the home, preparing dinner, and then eating dinner, ideally before sunset, when your digestion is still good. And ideally, that dinner is not as heavy as your lunch. Okay, so a little bit lighter, eating it on a good time. And then from the after dinner to the nighttime, it might be gentle movement, a walk outside. It might be just a little bit of tidying up at home. It's kind of tidying up all the matters from the day in a little relaxed way as we wind down to sleep. And it's really important that it's a wind down time, right? It's not catch up on everything that I have not done in a panicked way and let's finish and clean and do this and then push, 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 push. Now I'm supposed to sleep, right? We do need a natural wind down. Our nervous system needs to wind down. Even lights in the home. If everything's bright till like 11 p.m., our bodies does not recognize that it's nighttime. So dimmer lights, a little bit more relaxed environment, and just winding down activities. And there's a lot of little rituals in Ayurveda that we can look at another time, but a little bit of oil massage on the feet, or a little bit of a herbal bath, like a Epsom salt bath, or something that makes you feel that you're winding down. Could be meditation. And then if we wind down in the day and we feel fulfilled in our day, we will have a good sleep. And we will generally feel happy. So this is the Ayurvedic clock, and the goal is not to do everything. Don't try to, I have to do this, and I have forgot about this, and I have to do this. The goal is just picking one thing in the morning that you feel you can do that you're not doing now, and maybe one thing in the evening that you can do, and just start with that. That in itself can start to get you aligned to your own rhythm.
I love
So we'll
that.
end on that clock.
I love that. And Dr. Leena, you always say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. That's what's more important. And just to conclude on our conversation, what would be the one thing that you would want women to bring in their way of thinking about taking care of themselves? What would be the one mindset shift that you would leave everybody with?
Right. I think the biggest thing is I don't have to push myself through it all. How do I support myself in my energy so that that afternoon slump doesn't happen? How do I acknowledge that my body needs rest? And how do I make that happen? Because I think for most of us, we feel that. We want to make it happen, but we either feel guilty or we feel like we can't let others down, or we feel like everybody else is doing fine. How come I'm not doing fine? Right? So I think it's really important that we acknowledge where we're at. And if it's really like you're struggling with something, then work with someone, get some professional help that can really like customize what you need, right? But I think the important thing is don't wait too long to take care of these things because if you're feeling good and you're feeling joyful and balanced, this will spread out to the world, to the people that you're working with, to your family members, to your kids, to your partners, whatever that is. When you're feeling good and happy, this will multiply so much more fold. So don't feel guilty for taking that time for yourself to make it happen.
That is amazing. That is great. I am so happy that we had this conversation. And for anybody who wants to go deeper and wants to learn more and wants to get in touch with Dr. Leena, you can reach out to her directly, or you can reach out to us, and then we will make sure that we will connect you. It's Dr. Leena's website is Dr. Doctor Leena Leena.com. Is that correct, Dr. Leena, or is it
Yeah, dot .ca. Yeah.
.ca? I was
Yeah.
like, I did.
Both actually.
Yeah. So make sure that you book that 15-minute
Yeah.
meet and
And
greet.
there's
And
some resources. I have a burnout
yeah,
quiz there, an Ayurvedic burnout quiz. There's a dosha quiz. There's a few other resources, so feel free to explore that. I also just started a YouTube channel, so this was my um, thing that I just got going. And there's some videos on burnout and energy and few things that will come up. So feel free to explore that. And Surbhi, do you want to open up for some questions? I'd like people to have a little chance to process what we spoke about today and ask some questions that they might have as well.
yes. So we're going to conclude on our public facing part of it, and we will go into our private Purna community. And this is confidential, private, safe space where we will go into where you can ask direct questions. So thank you, Dr. Leena, for this part of the interview. And I can't wait to speak to the Purna community. So thank you, everybody who listened.